Crystal Faulkner with the CPA and Business Advisory firm of Cooney, Faulkner & Stevens. We're here today with Julie Heath. Julie's the director of the University of Cincinnati's Economic Center. And Julie, we heard some good news last week. Home sales are up in our region. Our local unemployment rate is down compared to the state and to the national activity. Do you see this trend continuing?
I do, and that was good news. Cincinnati as a whole has been performing much better than the state and the national numbers, particularly in housing, as you mentioned, and unemployment. And with our strong manufacturing base, with our strong emphasis on diversity across industries, this positions Cincinnati very well to improve even further.
So where do you see the economy, both here locally and nationally? Where do you see it headed in, say, the next year?
I think we're still going to sputter a bit, especially with employment. It's not been a robust recovery, and that's because of the reason we went into the recession. When recessions are caused by financial crises, the recoveries are typically longer and more drawn out, more difficult than recessions caused by other things. And so it's a typical recovery in terms of why we were in the recession to begin with. But I think we're still going to sputter a bit. But I think in 2013, the economy will start picking up some steam.
Well, that's also good news. Let's switch gears a moment. You know, let's talk about the role of the Economic Center in terms of job creation, economic activity here in our region.
Well, the Economic Center at the University of Cincinnati plays a part in economic growth and stability in the region in two ways. We have two functions at the center, and one is to conduct research. And in that respect, we provide analysis, we provide data to businesses who are thinking about opening a facility here, for example. What would be the economic impact of that? We provide analysis about workforce development. So our research side of the house informs governments and corporations about what economic impact would be. The education side of the house does professional development for teachers in K through 12, kindergarten through high school. And we provide economic growth for the region by teaching our children the basics of economic and personal finance, making them better citizens, better consumers, more productive workers.
And Julie, we are going to continue the conversation talking about the financial education piece and much more on WCPO.com/businesswise. So let's explore that financial education piece a bit, because I'm personally very passionate about the importance of teaching our children financial education at an early age. And you know, unfortunately, the schools, for the most part, just don't do that. It's not part of the testing that most teachers have to get their children ready for. The role of the center in providing that very important resource, how do schools get engaged with the center if they're interested in learning about how they can bring financial education inside their schools, elementary schools and high schools?
Elementary schools and high school, that's correct. And you know, when most people think about economic and financial education, they think about, well, our high school students need this. And the fact of the matter is that economic and financial education is about how you think about something, about how you make a decision. And we can start that early, even preschool, we can start that. And the way schools and teachers get involved is they just contact us, economiccenter.org. They just contact us and say, what can you do to help us? Because our role is not to create an add-on for teachers in schools. They are full up with all the standards they have to meet, the testing they have to go through. So what we try to do is teach them how they can integrate economics and financial education. So it's really not yet another thing that they have to do.
Well, and for the student, it just makes it more meaningful. When a child can really understand how the financial economic piece fits into real world situations, all of a sudden I think they get it a lot faster and it makes more sense to them. Context
is everything. So when you learn reading or math, for example, within the broader context, as you say, you get it. So if you're teaching you know, percentages, then it makes a lot more sense for a child to learn that within the context of saving and compound interest rather than just going through, you know, rote memorization of how this applies.
So Julie, you've been here on the job at the UC Economic Center for about 6 months. You previously ran the Economic Center in Memphis, and I might add, very successfully, very much all kinds of accolades and awards as a result of the financial education piece that you incorporated into that work. What vision do you have for the center here in our region in terms of how we're going to actually even improve on the great work that it's already doing?
Well, I came into a center that was pretty amazing. George Vetterveld, my predecessor, established a very strong, very visible economic center. So it was a nice setup to step into. But what I would like to do is expand on what I was just talking about. Economics and financial literacy needs to be integrated and infused in our everyday way of thinking, but certainly within the school systems. It's nice in high school for there to be a standalone course in economics and personal finance, but we need to start much sooner than that and start teaching children this is how you make a good choice about everything, not just about money.
Well, choices are key because,
That's
I mean,
right.
at the end of the day, if you can teach a child early on that they have to make choices, then that's just an attitude that they'll keep forever. And, you know, from a business perspective, it makes all kinds of sense to have citizens here in our region who are financially astute.
Oh, absolutely. From a business standpoint, you want your workers to be fully engaged in the economy. There are billions lost every year because of lost productivity from workers dealing with their own indebtedness, from taking time off, from HR departments dealing with garnishments. I mean, businesses lose a lot of money every year when their workforce is not appropriately trained in financial literacy.
You know, and speaking of children who grew up into adults, you know, the whole idea of student debt. Today we learn that student debt, or we know that student debt is greater than credit card debt. And that whole cycle, if children can learn early on and make those choices, it seems to me that that could really impact the future students to minimize the amount of student debt and the ultimate burden they're going to have and to carry that debt around with them.
That's right. That's right. That's the beauty of economic and financial education. It's applicable across a wide range of aspects of people's lives. So yes, you can make smarter decisions about should I spend, should I save. Yes, you can make smarter decisions about, okay, so now it's time for college. Do I really want to go to this high-ticket school and take on all this debt? You can make all of those kinds of decisions, but you can also make them in things that really have nothing at all to do with money. It's just making good decisions.
Well, Julie, thank you so much for being my guest and for everything you're doing for the
you,
center
Crystal.
and for our region.
Thank you.